What do you usually think of when thinking about a person's overall health problems? We often think about physical problems like heart disease, cancer, obesity, and injuries. But health is a balance of physical, mental, and social health. There are many more social problems in today's society that you may not have expected. One of them is social isolation. The Canadian Social Survey found that more than 1 in 10 people aged 15 and older said that they often felt lonely. We often think of isolation as something that affects the elderly, but young people in Canada tend to experience loneliness more than elderly people. Social isolation is the state in which the individual lacks social connections and has few interactions with other people. It's not the same with loneliness. Loneliness is feeling alone. Social isolation is a lack of human connections. Someone who has social isolation has little to no social support, unlike someone who is lonely, who can still have some connections to others and be well supported. Humans are social creatures just like most other mammals, so the lack of social interaction can have a negative effect on our health. So, where and when does social isolation come from? Unlike most of the issues, social isolation has no precise history, and when it starts to happen, it is an issue that has stayed with humans for a long time. However, loneliness seems to have originated in the late 16th century, when it was caused by being too far away from other people. Social isolation is still happening in our society today. You may not notice that people with social isolation pass by you in your everyday lives, and you might be one of them too. These are people that are most affected by social isolation. Older adults, especially those who live alone, people with disabilities or chronic illness, people who cannot fit into society, immigrants, young adults, those who lost their loved ones, those who are addicted to cell phones or social media. Being on phone or social media all the time can prevent us from making personal connections with others. Those who have social anxiety, people who are separated from their families and friends, people who have mobility problems. The recent social isolation that we all can mostly relate to is during the COVID-19 pandemic. The study discovered the associations between social isolation and positive mental health among elderly people in Canada during the pandemic. Almost 3 in 10 elderly people reported living alone, and more than 1/3 reported feeling lonely due to quarantine. Social isolation can greatly impact our mental and physical health. It leads to anxiety, stress, depression, increased risk of substance abuse, and self-harm, as well as suicide rates. Social isolation is also associated with increased risk of many diseases such as heart disease, stroke, and diabetes. Most people think social isolation mostly occurs in older people, but it actually happened among us. Some people think that social isolation is not that big of an issue compared to other issues and might not even be aware that it exists in our society. There is also not much media about this. Therefore, this might be the reason why it's not a big issue for us to be concerned about. My position on social isolation is to advocate for future changes in order to reduce social isolation. Although social isolation is an issue most people face in daily life, it is one of the most significant issues that people overlook. Nevertheless, I believe that there are positive actions to be taken to address social isolation. The best treatment for social isolation is to take action. I encourage people to find an activity or hobby that you enjoy doing. You might find new people with similar interests as you. If you are tied to your phone, try to put your phone down and spend some time with others. Don't forget to create a supporting network with your family, friends, and neighbors. And remember, talk with people you trust and share your stories with them.